Blockchain Show is a podcast that demystifies cryptocurrencies and distributed ledger technology.
Hello. Welcome back to the Blockchain Show, episode number 127. Waiting on my co-host Steve here, so I'm going to go ahead and read some listener mail. Can blockchain change how we compute credit scores? Blockchain has been making people in the know reconsider the way they handle finances. Blockchain is basically a triple-entry accounting ledger that is part of a network. Each blockchain contains a copy of that ledger, and every new record will be added to the ledger, and each new record will be linked to the previous one. Each group of entries forms a block, and since new records are linked to the record before that, it forms a chain, hence the name blockchain. Credit score, on the other hand, is something that banks and other financial institutions judge your credit worthiness against. Meaning, if you have bad credit, either banks or any other financial institution will not approve your loan, or you will incur higher interest on your loan compared to someone with a good credit rating. Credit scoring bureaus often use your social security as your identity. If your identity is stolen and your credit ruined, it will be a nightmare to fix. I just listened to a good podcast about what happens if the government thinks you're dead and you're not. Stuff you should know. So, how are these two connected? And more importantly, can blockchain actually affect how we compute credit scores? In the world of credit scores, there are three big players: Equifax, Experian, and TransUnion. These are the three main credit scoring bureaus and used by many banks. In 2017, one of the big three, Equifax, was breached and personal data of millions of people, including their social security numbers and tax identification numbers, were compromised. Yikes. Since credit scoring bureaus hold all their information centrally, any breaches like this will put millions of people's information at risk. This is one of the major downfalls of the current credit scoring system. Aside from that, credit scores are based on reputation and how you handled your previous debt. And since having a bad credit score can affect your access to formal financial institutions, even your employment, and the chances of renting a place to live in, people across the globe who are underbanked or unbanked are on the losing end. People also have very little insight into what's happening with their credit data, and there is also very little that anyone can do to protect themselves from fraud or mistakes. The data collected by these bureaus are accepted by people usually only when they are applying for loans, such as mortgages. And the credit reports they provide consumers are different from the credit reports they provide banks. The banks get more detailed reports, thereby creating a power imbalance. What blockchain can offer is a decentralized system. This means that there is better security over your sensitive data. This also means that it would be harder for people to provide false information and hide any financial indiscretions. The decentralized system will remove many of the barriers consumers have to accessing and controlling their credit reports. Consumers can give their entire credit history and not just the bits and pieces the credit bureaus provide. Blockchain can also empower the people who have no access to formal financial institutions and improve their lives and finances. So can blockchain affect how we compute our credit scores? The answer is a resounding yes. Blockchain has the potential to provide fairer, more transparent, and more complete credit reports, therefore affecting how credit scores are computed and viewed. I thought that was a pretty good write-up. This article was originally published by Uncapped Mortgage. Mortgage. Most people say mortgage, but it's spelled M-O-R-T-G-A-G-E, which translates to death grip, the mortgage. That actually was sent to me today from our friend, I think his name was Oliver. Let's see here. Daniel Oliver from Uncapped Mortgage's Content Relationships Management team. Looks like they primarily cover finance, real estate, investment, and lifestyle. I think they wanted to publish this on our website, but spoiler alert, we don't really do anything other than audio on our website and show notes. Thanks, Daniel, for sending that in. Reach out to us on minds.com. We have a little group there. We can chat, or you can find me at KinderConnect. Let's see what else. I wonder where Steve is. Steve was trying to do a podcast with me. Let me call him. I just wanted to tell people that post on vaccines was not endorsed by the Blockchain Show on Facebook. Yeah, we probably lost like 600 fans.
I don't know how many are left. I heard a very interesting stat the other day that you may find interesting. If you do a Google search or a Facebook search for are vaccines safe or is there danger in vaccines? Something like 80% of people who do that search end up joining a full on. And I use the term anti-vaxxer, and I'm going to continue to use it because I don't know the better one. Joining an anti-vaxxer movement. So it's very effective stuff that's out there. The way filter bubbles work on these platforms really, it's not good. I mean, it really, if you're looking for information out there, you are likely to end up, and this is only on Facebook. I mean, if you only look at peer-reviewed medical journals, I think you might come to a different conclusion. Maybe come to the same one. I don't know. But it's from somebody who's on the, pro-vaccine side versus anti-vaccine side, right? And I know I'm being a little unfair with my terms, but those are the best terms I got right now. It's scary how good the filter bubbles are to really steer you if you want to find out that information through Facebook. Steer you that way.
Yeah, because it just puts people in camps. Like, oh, you're a flat Earth. Okay, you think vaccines are bad? Oh, then what do you think the Earth is flat? The sky's falling? It's like, okay, here we go again. It's like, oh, you're a conspiracy theorist. It's like, can we just? It's like, oh, you're a Democrat. Oh, you're a Republican. Oh, you're alt-right. Oh, it's like people want to label people, and
yeah,
it's so detrimental to our humanity because we're going to go further down one spectrum or the other. One side's going to overtake the other. It's weird, man. And I'm sorry we didn't get to talk about much blockchain stuff this week. I just read that article about credit scores on the blockchain. It was just talking about how the Equifax was hacked. I think I was part of that fucking hack.
Oh, yeah. It's terrible.
So I got free credit monitoring out of the deal. Thanks, but no thanks. And it's just like, sometimes people are inappropriately reported dead to the government, and it takes them years of their lives to get loans and to get credit again because the government thinks they're dead. And there's such a thing as a death master list that banks and all these other institutions pull from the Social Security Administration. And the Social Security numbers were never really meant to be like an identity number. It was really just to determine how much money you were putting in. And then when you retired, you could pull out. And now it can't even open a bank account sometimes. I mean, the article didn't really give any good use cases of the blockchain. It just said the blockchain could be a solution.
Yeah, I mean, well, here's the thing about those things is that nobody at Equifax or the other two credit companies that came around the top of my head, but it's not like they went around and be like, hey, is this information that you would like me to gather and then sell to private parties without, and we're like, yeah, that sounds like a great thing for you to do. They just kind of asserted their rights to do this. And I don't think they should be able to. I think the blockchain would certainly be able to create some sort of system where people have self-sovereign identities where they can have maybe, share whatever bits of their credits they want to share with people, and then revoke that access when they're done. There are, identity is a requirement of the system to have, control of your identity and then control of your information. And because these honeypots, these companies that exist like Equifax, they are such a large target for hackers that it's very, very hard for a security breach not to ever happen. And that's why you need the security of blockchain to do, credit monitoring, credit reports, that type of stuff. With the big part of the solution being blockchain identity. So, and there's I think at least 6 or 7 companies. I can probably come with 4 or 5 of them off the top of my head that are doing a type of self-sovereign identity stuff, and some that are doing a little less self-sovereign, but still better than the current system. So,
sorry to interrupt. Are you saying these are small independent companies?
So with Consensus has their version of it. I think it's called. What's it called? I don't remember what it's called. There's big, large companies doing it. There's small, little companies doing it. In the blockchain game, self-sovereign identity is a bit of a holy grail where everybody wants to get at. If possible, it'll be an amazing technology that will benefit, because it's not, blockchain is kind of where we solve the money, right? So it's already solved that aspect of it, so people all over the world can have access to a monetary system which isn't privy to the whims of governments. Governments are certainly fallible and do all sorts of things that, we wouldn't want. We want to be able to take that power away from them. And to a certain extent, Bitcoin or, Bitcoin successors have succeeded a little bit in at least providing that gap a little bit, by providing an alternative. But identity is the second thing. So, if you have money, that's great, but credit is the other side of the coin. And in order to have credit, you need to have some sort of identity that you can kind of keep with yourself. And, or to have some, so you can have a third party do it, exert the rights themselves, like Equifax did, and then create these huge honeypots for hackers to go at. Or you can kind of build a self-sovereign in the system where, Ethan controls his identity. He has his credit information. He has his medical records, right? He has his vaccine records or whatever, and he can share them with those people he wishes to share. They can even do it with self-sovereign third-party verification, where they can verify, just say a agreed upon credit score formula, right? What's the result of, this is A credit, B credit, C credit, a rating, without actually giving details. So people can have proof that you're a great credit risk, without divulging the details of all the different accounts that you have. Or, that you're healthy without divulging the details of, what any other information that maybe be contained in your medical history. And then with that self-sovereign identity stuff, you can kind of revoke that access from people, so you take it with you. So that's a huge, huge thing that's going to happen within the blockchain space. With hopefully this is something that'll take a little while, I would imagine. But I think maybe Civic is a good one. Is it Reuters? Is that the name of the company? Reuters has a big one.
Yeah.
Identity stuff, but you got to build the infrastructure first. And right now they're just kind of building the infrastructure on it.
Credit's important for sure, but I almost wonder if there's a better way to go about borrowing money.
Like what?
It just seems like a lot of people get enslaved with debt in this country, at least.
We're bred to be consumers.
Yeah, I mean, there's like the financial sector is one of the most, rich parts of our country, and how much of that is just taking advantage of people who need help, which is kind of disgusting when you think about it. I mean, I like the idea of people having more control over who can access, their credit information, a decentralized system, removing barriers people have to, like sometimes people are unbanked, but
Yep.
if we're just switching the way we do it, is that enough? Or, it's like when our episode 2, when we were talking about money on Yap, humans have had for thousands of years this concept of money, and we just accept it in our everyday life. And since the 1920s, we've had a heavy dependency on credit in this country and consumerism, but that hasn't been the case always.
Right.
Sure, there's always been poverty. There's always been the haves and the have-nots, but like I used to think that blockchain was like a panacea kind of thing where,
you did?
Like, it's going to solve everything. But it's still just like, it's made by humans. It's also possible, I think David Noble talked about it the first time he appeared, that this could be used for negative outcomes as well, which I didn't even read that article because it bummed me out. I'm going to go back and read it now. But
yeah,
I guess what I'm trying to say is I can kind of see what it might look like. I don't know if it's going to work. Like, I think that it's probably going to be developed by one of these big 3 credit bureaus, if there ever is a decentralized credit reporting like bureau. I don't even know what word to use, but
right. Well, I mean, the goal would be self-sovereign identity, where you actually, it's not some third party that controls it, right? You decide what's in it, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's just some other company verifying whether that's accurate or not. At all.
Man, that's someone out there needs to jump on that. That's a great idea.
I assure you, there are tons of people jumping on it, right? It is something that it's self-sovereign identity is the big one. The problem is most people don't care that much, right? They care enough, but it's hard to fucking do. Now, so I've got to manage my identity, which means I have this password I need to keep secret. Like what?
Right. It's like people need to be told what to do almost. Or it's like they accept things that have been handed down to them, like a generational thing, like, oh, you got to apply for a mortgage, or you got to get a bank account. You got to, you know what I mean? It's a lot of times people, they don't have the energy or the time to seek out these things. And maybe that's the problem that you're describing. It's like, what would it take? Would it take a government institution to I mean, that's a centralized force, like
right.
mandating that everybody has their own sovereign identity. Like, what would it take for people to adopt that? I don't even know.
It would take it to be easy. It would take it to be socially acceptable. It would take it to not have huge financial incentives to take it down. And unfortunately, I don't think the third one is ever going to happen. I think the first 2 are unlikely. I think that an actual, truly self-sovereign identity it's one of those goals. It's like free energy in a certain respect.
Yeah, it's funny. I almost brought up Elon Musk, but that's probably a better example.
Yeah, for some reason, I think that Elon Musk, all the companies are betting on him, giving them credits because they can't buy enough renewable energy credits so they can pollute with their cars, that they help fund some company that will give them credits cheaper or keep the cost of credits down. So they save a bunch of money by creating competition, at least in the short term. I don't know if that's true. It sounds reasonable, right?
Yeah.
So it gets to the certain point where it's in their own best interest to help somebody like Elon Musk create renewable energy so that they can then buy their credits for cheaper.
Oh, wow. I didn't even think about that. I was just going to say the only reason I thought of him is, we're talking about what would it take to adopt a self-sovereign identity. And I thought of Elon Musk. He has entrepreneurial, or what do they call it? Shiny object syndrome is what he's being accused of. Like, he'll go from one thing to the next before really mastering what he was trying to implement. And I wonder if that was kind of like a hit piece that I read, or is it just because he's trying to work within the systems that are already in place, and it's an uphill battle for him because, I mean, the automobile industry is how many, over 100 years old. They're entrenched in gasoline engines for the most part. SpaceX, I just drove by SpaceX the other day kind of by Long Beach, and he's up against NASA. Or not up against. He's actually doing it for cheaper than they are.
Yeah, he's crushing NASA. NASA doesn't do anything anymore. Largely neutered.
So, I mean, maybe there's some benefit to kind of rewriting, or for lack of a better term, what's already in place, or I guess rewriting is more of a code thing, but trying to start these initiatives and adapt them to what people already know. Maybe that will work. Yeah, speaking about SpaceX, I also drove is down by Long Beach, and have you ever seen a cruise ship pull up, like a gigantic cruise ship full of people?
Yeah, I've been on cruises.
Crazy, man. I heard on a podcast that one cruise ship in one day puts off as much pollutants as 13 million cars.
13 million cars in one day, or 13 million cars in a year.
I think it was in one day.
Like a floating city, right?
Yeah, I'll have to look that up. But like, I was just thinking, like, how many fucking cruise ships are floating right now? Like, have you ever paddled a boat before? Like, how hard is it just to paddle yourself? But a gigantic boat, and they use, I assume, diesel electric engines or diesel engine. Like, why don't we just make cruises illegal so we can keep driving our cars? I don't know. Bad idea. Maybe Elon Musk should make electric cruises.
Yeah. Well, I guess it's one of those things when you have no environmental regulation. They pollute a little more than they need to. Do they have to have any sort of regulations for the engines that the cruise ships are running? I don't know. I sometimes wonder about that when I see the boats coming from China. Sometimes you can see them on a clear day. You know that's not a smog certified vehicle coming into harbor, because those things are just billowing out black smoke. Or have you ever gone by a factory in one of those industrial cities and just seen the smokestacks? It's like, how is that still legal? Like, they're just like an aluminum smelting factory. Right. Just nothing but smoke. It's crazy, man. It's crazy what we allow and what we don't allow. All right, man. I gotta let you go. I gotta go.
All right, man.
All right, bye.
Bye. Thank you for listening to this episode of The Blockchain Show. I promise we will have some more episodes in the future. We have some guests coming up, namely David Yakobovich and Jeremy from Axel. Please subscribe to the show if you haven't done so already. And if you have, please share with someone who you think might enjoy this episode or this podcast. Please give us a kind review on Apple Podcasts or wherever you get this episode. And thank you for downloading. I'll see you next week. So Ian is starting his own podcast called Sunblock. And they're showcasing some of the blockchain startups in Florida, where he lives. Mark, I don't know where you're at, Mark. I miss you, buddy. I saw you posted something on Facebook. I'm pretty late to the party there. Yeah, man, feel free to call me anytime you want to come back on the show. It'd be great to catch up.